Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
In the heart of a swirling nebula, where the colors danced between vibrant blues and fierce reds, lay the planet Xylaris, a world brimming with strange flora and buzzing with the energy of its highly advanced civilization. Towering spires of iridescent metals pierced the skies, each humming with the sounds of alien technology. It was here that strength was revered above all else, where the formidable warriors of the Xylari thrived, their muscular forms adapted to the planet's fiery atmosphere and the harsh demands of their society. Jonah, a legless human snatched from his tranquil life on Earth, found himself in this unforgiving landscape. Abducted by a group of Xylari marauders, he had become a curiosity, a mere oddity among their ranks. His condition left him at an enormous disadvantage in a culture that celebrated speed, strength, and prowess in battle. Yet Jonah had resolved to survive, relying on his wits and intellect to navigate the complex social dynamics of this alien world. As he maneuvered through the bustling metropolis of Xylaris, a throng of tall warriors towered over him, adorned with gleaming armor and intricate tattoos, each marking their accomplishments in combat. Jonah's slender form glided along the ground, catching glances of pity, derision, and a hint of admiration from some who recognized the fire in his eyes. In the midst of this thrumming metropolis lay the Grand Arena, a colossal structure where countless duels and contests of strength took place. The roar of the crowd could be heard from blocks away, and it was the beating heart of Xylari culture, the ultimate stage for warriors to prove themselves. On this day, Jonah found himself drawn to the Grand Arena, compelled by the energy pulsing from within its walls. The sun hung low, casting long shadows as Xylari warriors gathered in anticipation of the day's contests. With each step, the murmurs grew louder, the name Kale echoing like a battle cry among the crowd. Kale, a name that sent shivers down Jonah's spine. Known as the strongest warrior in all of Xylaris, Kale was a towering figure with blue skin, rippling muscles, and a presence that commanded respect. His victories were legendary, and the tales of his conquests spread like wildfire among the Xylari. As Jonah reached the edge of the arena, he could see Kale, surrounded by a horde of admirers, flexing his muscles and exchanging banter with fellow warriors. The laughter rolled like thunder, and Jonah could feel their eyes on him, the legless human who dared tread on the hallowed grounds where only the strongest belonged. "Look at him!" a voice called out, loud and mocking. The crowd erupted in laughter. The slow, legless human thinks he can be among us. Jonah's heart raced, not with fear, but with a rising anger. He had endured their mockery for far too long. They saw him as weak, a target for ridicule, but he was determined to show them the strength he possessed, though it lay not in physicality, but in intellect and strategy. "Do you dare challenge me, human?" Kale's voice boomed across the arena, cutting through the noise like a blade. There was an edge of amusement in his tone, an invitation mixed with derision. Jonah's breath caught in his throat. The crowd fell silent, the anticipation tangible. He could feel their eyes narrowing, waiting, expecting him to back down. But Jonah was not one to retreat in the face of adversity. "I challenge you to a contest, Kale, not one of brute strength, but one of strategy. Let us see who truly possesses the cunning of a warrior." A ripple of shock passed through the crowd. Kale's laughter echoed, filling the arena before he leaned down, his face a mask of mockery. "You think you can match me with your wits? Very well, I accept your challenge. But prepare yourself, legless human, for I will crush you." As the laughter erupted anew, Jonah stood tall, not with his body, but with the fierce resolve in his heart. This was only the beginning. He would show them that strength came in many forms, and in choosing to challenge Kale, he had set the stage for a battle that would alter the perceptions of not only himself, but the whole of Xylaris. With fire ignited in his spirit, Jonah began to contemplate the strategies that would lead him to victory over the warrior who had become a symbol of all he fought against. The atmosphere in the Grand Arena was electric, a charged anticipation hanging in the air as the audience buzzed with excitement. Jonah could feel the weight of thousands of alien eyes focused solely on him, their smirks and jeers amplifying the challenge he had just thrown. As the laughter died down, he He took a deep breath, grounding himself in the moment. "Very well. I shall prepare myself for our contest, human," Kale proclaimed, his voice booming across the arena. "But do be warned, the Xylari do not take lightly to failure. If you lose, you will remain here forever, bound to become a plaything of the mighty." Jonah's heart raced, but he masked his fear with resolve. "And if I win?" he replied, locking his gaze with Kale's. "What does a helpless creature like you want?" Kale grinned, his sharp teeth glinting in the alien sunlight. "Attention? Respect? You'll leave here in disgrace, a pitiful figure to be forgotten." A chorus of mocking laughter erupted from the crowd once again. Yet amidst the jeers, there were whispers, curious murmurs among those who believed in the underdog. Jonah caught sight of Lyra, a mesmerizing Xylari female with striking blue skin and luminous emerald green eyes. Her gaze held an intrigue that set her apart from the others, lending a warmth to Jonah amidst the cold mockery around him. "The day of the contest shall be set, tomorrow at dusk," Kale announced, and the crowd cheered, excitement coursing through them like wildfire. "Prepare yourself, Legless one." As the throng dispersed, Jonah felt a mix of exhilaration and dread. He had no time to waste. He needed to formulate a plan. With Kale's formidable reputation at stake, he knew he had to leverage his one tactical advantage, his intellect. As evening fell, Jonah returned to his modest dwelling, a small enclave nestled within the sprawl of Xylari habitations. Reflecting on the day's events, he found himself increasingly determined. The jeers and laughter had fueled a fire within him, a flame that promised to illuminate the way forward. He wouldn't simply face Kale. He would outthink him. Jonah spent the night poring over his surroundings, analyzing the arena layout, the available technology, and the audience's behaviors. He knew that if he could create an environment that favored his strategic thinking over Kale's brute force, he stood a chance of winning. Yet, while he was deep in contemplation, a soft knock interrupted his thoughts. He opened the door to find Lyra standing outside, her silhouette framed by the dim light of the stars. "Jonah," she said softly, her voice laced with concern, "I heard the challenge you made today. Few would dare to stand against Kale. I admire your courage." "What's courage without a plan?" Jonah replied, "I need help. I can't rely on strength, but perhaps we can devise a tactic that will catch him off guard." Lyra stepped inside, her presence calming. "I've seen the dynamics of combat here, and you're right. It's all about strategy. Would you like to learn more about the fighting styles? I can assist you, Jonah." With her support, a plan began to take shape. They spent the night breaking down fighting techniques and exploring potential technological advantages within the arena. Jonah, using the holographic projectors that the Xylari employed for training, created simulations of possible scenarios. Lyra contributed insights, her understanding of Xylari psychology, shedding light on how the crowd and key players operated. As dawn broke on the horizon, their collaboration blossomed into a strategy that played on Kale's expectations. Jonah would need to remain unpredictable, using the alien technology at his disposal to create a series of challenges that could frustrate and confuse the powerful warrior. Their bond deepened. Lyra became not just an ally, but a confidant. Together, they discussed more than tactics, sharing stories of their worlds and finding common ground between human and Xylari experiences. But as the sun set on the eve of the contest, Jonah lay awake, consumed by thoughts. Would the crowd's hostility be too overwhelming? Would Kale's strength prove too powerful? As nervousness crawled under his skin, he steadied himself. Tomorrow was a new dawn, one that could ignite change not just for him, but for how the Xylari viewed not just legless humans, but the very concepts of strength and bravery. "Whatever happens, I will show them," Jonah whispered to himself, "that the greatest power lies not in the body, but in the mind and spirit." The sun rose high over Xylaris, casting vibrant hues across the landscape, igniting the vegetation in brilliant shades of turquoise and fuchsia. It was a new day, one filled with danger, anticipation, and a glimmer of hope. Jonah sat on the floor of his modest dwelling, surrounded by holographic projections of the grand arena. Lyra had joined him once more, her dark blue skin radiating an ethereal glow in the morning light. Let's review our plan, Jonah said, focusing his attention on the shimmering images before him. The arena was a complex structure, its layout designed for both battles and spectacles, with multiple levels and obstacles. He knew he needed to leverage its intricacies to his advantage. Lyra nodded, her expression serious. The key is not to engage Kale directly in combat. You must use his strength against him. Remember, he will underestimate you. We will set traps, create diversions, and use the environment to our advantage. Jonah's mind raced with ideas. Together, they sketched out a series of challenges and obstacles he could manipulate, from retractable walls to hidden gadgets that could create illusions of movement. He could design a series of illusions that would lead Kale into traps and create opportunities to strike without direct confrontation. This will confuse him, Jonah said, excitement bubbling in his chest. If I can keep him guessing, I might just stand a chance. Their strategy session stretched into the afternoon, filled with intense conversations and brainstorming. In between planning, Jonah found himself captivated by Lyra's keen insight. As they exchanged stories and laughter, a camaraderie blossomed. She shared tales of her father, a well-respected warrior who had fallen in battle, and Jonah spoke of life on Earth, of green forests, blue oceans, and evenings filled with laughter among friends. As they strategized, they uncovered the core of their plans. Understanding the opponent's psychology, Jonah learned the nuances of Xylari culture, their pride, and their expectation of strength. He would use all of this to craft a narrative in the contest, a dramatic confrontation that would draw the audience in. By twilight, the sun set with a brilliant display, casting a fiery glow over the city as the time for the contest drew near. The air was thick with tension as Jonah approached the grand arena, the sounds of the awaiting crowd echoing like a distant thunder. As they entered the arena, Jonah felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. The audience thrummed with energy, their eyes fixed on the combatants. Kale stood at the center, a statue of confidence and strength, his intimidating presence drawing admiration and awe from the crowd. "Welcome, warriors." Kale's voice boomed as he raised his arms, eliciting cheers from the audience. "Tonight, we witness the foolishness of a legless human who dares to challenge me." The crowd erupted in mocking laughter, but Jonah stood tall, drawing upon the core of his resolve. He could feel the support of Lyra beside him, a silent reminder that he was not alone in this fight. "Do you want to share with us, Kale?" Jonah called back, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "The strength you boast is not the only measure of a warrior. Strength of mind can overcome brute force." A murmur of surprise and intrigue ran through the crowd. Jonah's pulse quickened. He had sparked a flicker of curiosity among them. Kale's glare sharpened, but Jonah noticed a glimmer of uncertainty. "Let us see then, human," Kale replied, his confidence slightly shaken. "Prepare for your folly." The bell rang, signaling the start of the contest. It resonated through the arena, marking the beginning of a battle unlike any the Xylari had ever witnessed. As the first moments unfolded, Jonah revolved around his plan. He summoned the holographic projectors hidden along the arena's periphery, activating them with a swift motion. Bright lights flickered, and illusions began to emerge, creating multiple versions of Jonah that darted around the arena. The crowd gasped, witnessing the display as Kale pivoted, attempting to catch the phantoms of Jonah. "Coward!" he shouted, but Jonah just smirked, using the advantage of distraction to set his first trap, a retractable wall that sprang up where Kale least expected it. With agility and cleverness, Jonah began to weave through the challenges he had created, leading Kale deeper into the labyrinth of illusions and traps. The crowd, initially filled with laughter, now watched with bated breath, excitement staining the air. In that moment, Jonah realized the truth of his journey. This wasn't just about conquering Kale. It was about showing every single one of them, the Xylari warriors, the crowd, and even himself, that true strength resided not in one's physical might, but in strategy, intelligence, and the courage to face impossible odds. Together with Lyra's unwavering belief in him, Jonah would fight not just for victory, but for respect and a change in perception. The hope that perhaps even a legless human could be revered as a warrior. The vibrant lights of the grand arena pulsed like a living heartbeat, illuminating the faces of the spectators who had gathered to witness the spectacle. Jonah's heart raced as he stood at the edge of the battleground, the electric energy in the air igniting his resolve. This was it, the moment that would define not just his fate, but perhaps the future perception of humankind among the Xylari. With Kale's booming laughter ringing in his ears, he felt a rush of adrenaline. "You think you can hide, human? I will find you," Kale shouted, his voice echoing through the arena. As Jonah activated the next phase of his plan, the surroundings blurred at the edges, the world narrowing down to the duel that was about to unfold before them. The retractable walls slammed into place, obscuring the view of certain areas of the arena, creating a maze-like atmosphere. Jonah's holograms flickered between the walls, darting into views, each an illusion carefully designed to disorient Kale. The audience watched, their anticipation thick as they wondered just how this legless human would stand against their greatest warrior. As the duel began, Kale charged forward, a mass of muscle and fury, aiming to crush one of the illusions before him. Jonah's heart raced. This was the moment he had prepared for. He had to think quickly and adapt. He maneuvered one of the holograms away, just as Kale swung his fist, the warrior's power uprooting the very ground beneath him as Jonah deftly shifted. "Where are you, coward?" Kale taunted, a hint of frustration creeping into his voice as he chased after another illusion. The laughter of the crowd grew weaker, replaced by a growing sense of tension. Jonah could see the change in their demeanor, a blend of confusion and intrigue. Utilizing the environmental traps he had laid, Jonah triggered another mechanism, releasing a cloud of dust that swirled around Kale, temporarily blinding him. The powerful warrior stumbled, and the crowd gasped, their surprise palpable. For the first time, they saw that dependence on raw strength was not a guaranteed victory. Encouraged by their reactions, Jonah pushed the advantage. "What did I say, Kale? Strength alone won't win this," he called out, taunting his opponent while dashing behind a wall. With a flick of his wrist, he deployed another holographic image, making it look like he was coming from another direction entirely. Kale grunted in frustration, swinging his fists wildly to shatter the illusions, his sweat mingling with the dust as the exertion began to show on him. The crowd was no longer laughing. They were engaged, their gazes glued to the scenes unfolding. Just then, Jonah saw an opening. This was the moment he had waited for. He summoned the last phase of his plan, activating a series of obstacles that led Kale toward a trap near the edge of the arena. With swift precision, Jonah created a hologram of himself standing fearlessly at the far edge, baiting the warrior into his final trap. "Come at me, Kale," Jonah taunted, his voice steely with determination. "Show me the power you boast." Kale, now feeling the pressure, lunged toward the illuminated hologram with ferocity. As he charged, Jonah activated the trap, a retractable net designed to spring from the ground. The trap unfurled, and Kale, caught off guard, stumbled right into it, the net snapping around him like a wild predator. The crowd gasped as astonished silence fell over the arena. Kale struggled, his confidence shattered as he realized his predicament. The moment was tangible. The alien audience saw their strongest warrior, mighty Kale, the embodiment of power, ensnared by the cunning of the one they had mocked. Jonah seized the opportunity. "Is this what you call strength?" he yelled across the arena, his voice carrying a mix of triumph and defiance. "Strength isn't merely physical. It's the will to strategize, to adapt." The crowd began to murmur, and Jonah could see the tide shifting. They were beginning to recognize the power of intellect over mere brawn. Jonah felt a thrill of hope pour through him. This was not just a battle for victory. It was a battle for understanding. In that moment, Kale's eyes locked onto Jonah's, mingling anger with something resembling respect. "You may be clever, but do not think a mere trick can earn your place among warriors," he rasped, his powerful limbs still thrashing against the net. Jonah was unwavering. "Respect is not given, it is earned, with heart, brain, and spirit," he called out, feeling emboldened by Lyra's presence in the crowd and the shift in atmosphere. As Kale fought against the net, the arena's tension electrified the air. The once chaotic laughter had dissipated, replaced with a collective hope for transformation. Jonah had begun to change the narrative. With a final surge of energy, Jonah approached the snared warrior, steadying his gaze upon Kale's fierce expression. "If you truly wish to win, learn to respect all forms of strength," he declared. In the grand arena, surrounded by thousands who once mocked him, Jonah realized he had fought not just for his life, but for the recognition of something far greater, a fusion of intellect and might, human and alien, a blending of worlds that could reshape their collective fate. The atmosphere in the grand arena was thick with tension as the crowd stood on the precipice of anticipation. Jonah had turned the tables on Kale, and the strong warrior was now trapped, both literally and metaphorically. Gasps of disbelief echoed around the arena, the spectators processing what had just transpired. They had come expecting a simple display of strength and dominance, but what they witnessed was something profound, a clash of wits and spirit. As Kale thrashed against the net, anger and humiliation clouded his features. "You think you've won, little human?" he spat, straining against his bonds. "This is not over. I will break you." Jonah felt a pang of sympathy. Deep down, he understood Kale's rage. He had been stripped of the one thing that defined his identity in Xylari culture. Yet, this moment was not just about revenge or pride. It was about proving that strength transcended physical prowess. "True strength is not in breaking others, Kale," Jonah retorted, moving closer, casting a shadow over the mighty warrior. "It's in understanding and overcoming the odds. Look at the crowd. They are witnessing something new." The realization dawned on Kale, as if a light had flickered in his mind. That glimmer of uncertainty morphed into contemplation as he gazed at the crowd. The Xylari, initially bloodthirsty fans of sheer physical confrontation, now watched with a mix of respect and intrigue. In that fateful moment, Jonah made a decision. He leaned closer to Kale, lowering his voice so only he could hear. "Join me. Let's redefine what it means to be a warrior. Together, we can teach our people about the power of both muscle and mind." Kale's eyes narrowed, still burning with frustration. "Why should I accept your offer? You mock my strength." "Because I see potential in you that transcends mere fighting," Jonah replied, heart racing. "Imagine if the strongest warrior in Xylaris could also be the most respected strategist. You have the opportunity to lead by example." The crowd held its breath, a palpable stillness filling the air as they waited for Kale's response. Slowly, the warrior's expression softened, uncertainty giving way to contemplation. He reflected upon his life, the countless battles fought, and the legacy he wanted to leave. Perhaps this human was right, but before Kale could respond, the crowd erupted into a spontaneous wave of cheers. "Human! Human! Human!" Their chants filled the arena, recognition and admiration sparking among the Xylari. They were witnessing a turning point, one that transcended the boundaries of species, the dawn of a new understanding. The chant strengthened the bond between Jonah and Kale. With a newfound clarity in his eyes, Kale ceased his thrashing and looked up at Jonah with respect. "Perhaps there's more to strength than I once thought," he admitted slowly, truly acknowledging the human before him. "Let's show them together," Jonah said, extending a hand to the warrior, the net still wrapped around him. Kale hesitated for a moment, then, as if breaking free from the restraint of the past, he accepted Jonah's hand and stood. With a mighty tug, Kale tore the net apart, freeing himself completely. The crowd erupted in thunderous applause, not just for Kale's strength, but for the bond forming between the human and Xylari. The challenges had not only transformed Jonah's fortune, but had catalyzed an evolution within Kale himself. There in the arena, two warriors, one a legless human from Earth, the other the strongest warrior of Xylaris, stood united, symbolizing a new era. As the chants rose to fever pitch, Jonah felt an impossibly powerful emotion swell within him. More than victory, this was acceptance. Together, he and Kale faced the crowd, continuing to embrace the transformative moment. "We are more than just our strength," Jonah shouted over the cheers. "We are our choices, our minds, and our hearts. Let us forge a new destiny together." The roar of the Xylari surged, echoing through the arena as they embraced the sentiment. Jonah's heart soared. They were reshaping the narrative, combining human cleverness and Xylari might into an incredible alliance. And as the sun lowered in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over their joint victory. Jonah knew that this was just the beginning. They stood at the forefront of change, a blend of cultures, beliefs, and the triumph of understanding. As the dust settled in the grand arena, the atmosphere transformed into one of jubilation and celebration. The crowd erupted into cheers, their chants of human, 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 echoing throughout the sprawling spaces of Xylaris. Jonah stood among them, side by side with Kale, feeling a sense of belonging he had never experienced since his abduction from Earth. The challenge had closed, but a new chapter had begun. Jonah looked out over the sea of Xylari faces, some filled with admiration, others still grappling with the implications of this unprecedented alliance. It was evident that perceptions had shifted dramatically. Kale, still breathing heavily from the exertion of the contest, turned to Jonah, a hint of a smile breaking through his otherwise stoic demeanor. "You were clever, human. I underestimated you." There was no mockery in his tone, just respect. Jonah shrugged, a satisfied grin spreading across his face. "And you've shown me the strength of a warrior's heart. Together we can teach the Xylari that true strength comes in many forms." As the cheers subsided, Lyra emerged from the crowd, her expression brimming with pride. "You did it, Jonah. You've changed everything," she exclaimed, her voice sparkling with enthusiasm. "Not just me," Jonah replied, pointing toward Kale, who stood tall beside him. "We did this together. We showed them a new way." The Xylari warrior nodded, clasping Jonah on the shoulder. "We have much work ahead of us. The perception of strength must evolve, and it begins tonight," he declared, looking back at the crowd that continued to buzz with excitement. Soon, the crowd began to disperse, the Xylari moving with a renewed sense of purpose, energized and invigorated. The energy remained palpable as Jonah and Kale stood at the center of the arena, now transformed from mere combatants into symbols of a promising alliance. In the days that followed, a new dialogue sparked between humans and Xylari. Jonah and Kale worked to bridge the gap between their worlds, sharing stories, strategies, and skills. Under the arena's glow, communal gatherings flourished, where ideas were exchanged and mutual respect was cultivated. Jonah often found himself alongside Lyra, who proved to be his greatest ally in navigating Xylari customs. Together, they created programs to integrate human techniques into Xylari training. The Xylari warriors began to practice strategy alongside strength, embracing the new concepts Jonah introduced, while still retaining their rich traditions. One evening, while they shared tales beneath a blanket of stars, Lyra looked at Jonah, her expression thoughtful. "The stories you tell of Earth are beautiful. I can see how deeply you care for your people. You've become a part of ours as well." Jonah felt warmth spread through him at her words. "Thank you, Lyra. I never imagined I would find a place here, a new home. Your support has made this possible." Their bond deepened with each passing day, filled with shared dreams and aspirations. The discussions turned into something more, a connection that transcended their cultural differences, budding with unspoken emotions. However, with progress came challenges. Some factions among the Xylari had difficulty accepting this paradigm shift. Traditionalists who favored raw strength and dominance looked upon Jonah with disdain, unwilling to accept a legless human as an equal. One day, as Jonah and Kale stood before a gathering of warriors, murmurs of dissent filled the air. A warrior stepped forward, chest puffed, challenging the newfound order. "This is folly. A weak human cannot teach us what it means to be a warrior. We should stick to our ways." Kale stepped forward, his imposing figure silencing the crowd. "It is you who are mistaken. It is time we evolve. The past has taught us strength. Now let it be our courage to embrace change." Jonah seized the moment, his heart pounding with the weight of his words. "I am here to learn from you as much as you can learn from me. It is not weakness to recognize other forms of strength. It takes bravery to build bridges instead of walls." The faces in the crowd shifted, some softened by Jonah's honesty. Others remained skeptical but began to waver. The dialogue continued, back and forth, moving from conflict to resolution, each warrior drawn into the conversation. In their unity, Jonah found a true sense of belonging. What started as a challenge had birthed an alliance between humans and Xylari, a partnership founded not simply on strength, but on the power of understanding, respect, and shared goals. As the sun dipped below the horizon one evening, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Jonah and Lyra stood at the edge of the arena, watching the stars emerge one by one. "What's next for us?" Jonah asked, his voice low, filled with hope for the future. Lyra turned to him, her eyes shining with determination. "Together, we will continue to forge pathways. Each day is an opportunity to teach and learn until the strength within all of us is recognized." Jonah smiled, his heart echoing the promise of what lay ahead. They would learn from one another, shaping a narrative that honored both their cultures. And in this newfound alliance, they would show the universe that true strength lay not in only the powerful, but in the bonds forged through understanding and acceptance. As he looked into the night sky, brimming with stars, Jonah felt hope swell within him. He was not merely a legless human. He was a bridge between two worlds, an architect of change. And this was only the beginning. Weeks turned into months, and the echoes of the battle from the grand arena became a landmark moment etched into history. Jonah had become a prominent figure in the ongoing dialogue between the Xylery and humans. The alliance that began as a sporting challenge now transformed into a movement of unity and understanding. Joint trainings flourished, blending elements of human strategy with Xylery combat techniques. The warriors learned to adapt, evolve, and respect the differences that each culture brought to the table. As they practiced together, their laughter and camaraderie filled the air, weaving a rich tapestry of friendship across the divide. Jonah often found himself at the center of discussions, advocating for the integration of new ideas. Yet, he also learned from Kale and the Xylery, their rich customs teaching him as much about resilience and honor as he had hoped to impart. The relationships he built were founded on mutual respect, redefining what it meant to be a warrior on Xylaris. One evening, as Jonah and Kale oversaw a mixed training session, he looked around at the diverse group of warriors, humans and Xylery alike, sharing knowledge and competing not against one another, but alongside each other. It was a sight that filled him with joy. "Look at them," Jonah said, turning to Kale, his heart swelling with pride. "We've built something incredible." Kale nodded, a proud smile crossing his face. "Indeed, you have taught us that strength lies in unity, Jonah. You have earned the respect of our people." But change hadn't come without its challenges. There were still factions resistant to this new way of thinking. Traditionalists were wary, holding onto the old narratives that celebrated sheer might and dominance. Jonah knew it would take time, dedication, and continued commitment to bridge these divides completely. During one of their gatherings, an urgent council was called. A prominent elder voiced their concerns. "Change is good, but our traditions run deep. We cannot simply abandon them." Jonah stepped forward, knowing this was a pivotal moment. Tradition is important, but so is growth. We honor our past by learning from it, not by being shackled to it. Strength is not just in adherence to what was. It's in how we adapt to shape what will be. As murmurs of agreement arose from the crowd, Jonah felt a surge of hope. The seeds of understanding were sprouting, nourished by patience and shared experiences. Together, they forged a future that honored both their histories while allowing room for evolution. Over time, Jonah also gained connections to Earth. Through advanced communication technologies shared by the Xylery, he relayed tales of their alliance back home, inspiring others to imagine a world where humans and aliens could collaborate and learn from one another. Humanity too stared out into the stars with wonder and hope. As the sun dipped low one evening, casting a warm golden hue over the city, Jonah stood on a hill overlooking the arena. Beside him, Lyra watched the horizon, her emerald eyes full of dreams. "Do you think we'll always be able to work together like this?" Jonah asked, his voice softening. Lyra turned to him, her expression steadfast. "As long as we believe in each other, we can overcome anything." Their bond deepened, intertwined with the commitment they had fostered with their respective communities. The challenge that had initially brought them together had blossomed into a love founded on respect and understanding. This connection transcended the limitations of their species. It became a powerful symbol of unity that inspired all who witnessed it. In that moment, Jonah understood. This was not merely about winning a challenge. It was about forging connections that transformed worlds. They had shattered preconceived notions of strength and developed a relationship that not only spanned galaxies, but also bridged hearts. As they stood there, Jonah took Lyra's hand, feeling the warmth of her skin against his. He knew that their journey was just beginning. Together, they would continue to teach others that strength comes in many forms, and true power lies not in domination, but in the willingness to understand, embrace, and uplift one another. And under the canvas of the starry night sky, with hope blossoming in their hearts, Jonah and Lyra felt ready to face whatever challenges the future held.